I'd like to go a little bit further in all of this as it relates to these attacks in the Red Sea, where, frankly, the Biden administration has allowed a band of militants to bully the rest of the world into surrendering the freedom of navigation, which is obviously impacting trade and a host of other things. Joining me now to discuss this is Gordon Chang, a distinguished senior fellow at the Gatestone Institute, also the author of The Coming Collapse of China and China is Going to War. You can follow him, by the way, on X, formerly known as Twitter, under the handle at Gordon G. Chang. Gordon, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you.
Thank you so much, Jody, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well, my friend. Thank you so much. All right, what do you think about this? We have, as we've already discussed, the world's largest shipping companies. They're rerouting vessels away from the Red Sea, and obviously this is creating delays and rising costs are going to be expected, potential supply chain problems. What kind of economic impact do we need to be looking for?
Well, certainly there's going to be economic impact on Egypt because about 10% of its gross domestic product are fees through the Suez Canal, and those are going to be way down. Also, Europe is going to be especially impacted. It's already in a fragile state. And shipping between Europe and Asia is going to be impacted because the route around Africa is about 12,000 nautical miles longer. And depending on the ship, we're talking between 2 and 4 weeks added to the journey. Fortunately, most of our shipping doesn't go through the Suez Canal, but nonetheless, it does affect globalization. The world is going to deglobalize because people are starting to understand that the skies and the seas are not safe. But there is one thing, and this goes back to Lieutenant Colonel McGinnis, and that is, we've got all this military power in the region. The Iranians are humbling us, and what they are doing is they are making us look feeble. And that has effects not only in that region, but also around the world, especially Asia.
Yeah, it really does. In fact, I've got an article right here in my hand about the what seems to be an ally forming more and more allies, but Russia with China, Iran, North Korea, all of these getting involved in this. And look, we all know the Houthi militants are backed by Iran, but you have observed that China ultimately funds these attacks, and by us not responding certainly makes us look weak. Go a little bit further for us on this, and specifically with the role of China.
Yeah, China has been financing what's been going on since October 7th. And we know that because, for instance, in the first 9 months of this year, China's purchases of sanctioned Iranian oil was 60% above that in 2017. Now, Jody, 2017 is important because that was the last year before the Trump administration reimposed sanctions on Iranian oil. So essentially what's going on here is that, yes, the Houthis are firing the arrows, but really the arrows are coming from Iran, and China's paying for them. And we know this. We know that China's been violating our sanctions. We don't do anything about this. And this makes the United States look incapable, as I mentioned, not just in the region, but everywhere else as well.
Do you have any reason why we would allow this to happen? I mean, China is breaking agreements, and here we are, they're funding the very ones who are attacking us and attacking now the entire world through limiting trade and so forth. Why would we not respond and allow this to happen?
Well, to me, this is incomprehensible. I think, though, that you can explain it because there are pro-Iran elements in the State Department, and there are also pro-Iran elements in the National Security Council. And I suspect that President Biden thinks that if there is a wider war in the Middle East, that will have electoral consequences come November 5th, 2024. But I can only speculate what's going on inside the Oval Office. But clearly, the American interests are not being served well by decisions that he is responsible for.
Well, I can't help but think that there will be consequences at the ballot box if they allow this to continue as well. But, here we have something that I think the world, and this is why I love having you on, and Lieutenant Colonel McGinnis as well, Most of the world looks at this as something between Israel and Hamas, but this is already much broader than that. As you've just explained, China is funding this. They are heavily engaged in the back seat, if you will. Does President Biden not recognize the threat that China poses to the U.S.?
Well, if you listen to what he says, the answer to that is obviously no, because he keeps on talking about the relationship with China as a competitive one, even while China is stealing hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. intellectual property each year. But more important, killing Americans. They're killing Americans with fentanyl, and he did it before with COVID. That's not a competitive relationship. That's an enemy taking casualties here. You know, really what we're looking at is China supporting Iran in the October 7th attacks. China's also supporting Russia in the invasion of Ukraine, and China and Russia together are destabilizing North Africa by fueling insurgencies that look like war. So this is not a regional war in the Middle East. This is connected to a major effort to destabilize the world and to take down the United States.
Yeah, I think we cannot underscore that and highlight that reality enough. And again, while the world thinks this is between Israel and Hamas, there is so much more taking place when you look into the hood, look under the hood of all of this. And what you just described, I can't help but think President Biden not recognizing the threat of China just really highlights the possibility of compromise that the president may have with China, and I hope all this continues to be investigated. So what should the Biden administration do? How do they tackle this issue? How should they be addressing it?
Well, first of all, there are Houthi ports. And by the way, there is a ship that was boarded and was taken by the Houthis, and we know where it is. It's in a Houthi port. We should be getting that ship back, and we should be leveling that port. We should be going after the launch sites, as Colonel McGregor said. But also, the other thing is, if that doesn't work, then we just need to take out the Iranian oil ports. And I think in a very short order after that, Iran will decide that it's no longer worthwhile to maintain the war against Israel and against the commercial shipping in the Red Sea. But, you know, people will say it's unfortunate that we have to use force, and it is. And we may trigger a wider war. But the point is, once these misguided decisions that have been made for a very long time have created a situation where every way forward is dangerous. And the most dangerous way of all is not responding to attacks, because as we've not responded to attacks, the situation has deteriorated rapidly, not only in Red Sea, but also in Iraq and Syria, which you referred to before.
Could not agree with you more. Thank you so much, Gordon Chang, Senior Fellow at the Gatestone Institute. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch. Merry Christmas.